Okay, in this talk I want to have a look at the star map as a working model of consciousness, if that's not too grand a concept. I'm on a 6-pointed star there. That's absolutely not where I want to be. Let's flip it back to... You can move down a little bit there. So that's our starting point. Just a reminder, why is that our starting point? Because this maps on the 6 planes of consciousness, running from the 6th plane running around this way in black, 7th plane green, 8th plane purple, 9th plane back on the black ones green, and the last one on the purple is the 11th plane. So that's why that's our starting position, at least as a theoretical model. I started to talk about this in the last talk, and when we're attuned, when we're spinning in the vibration harmony of the universal rhythm, the universal dance, or however you want to prescribe it, then our atoms, our molecules, whatever they are, we're all spinning in the right direction. We're all spinning in harmoniously, let's just call it. So when we're not, this is a moment of it's more the opposite. The moments when we're tuned up and connected and spinning in the right direction, but there's also a lot of time when we're quite disconnected, we're quite distracted, let's call it. We're in disequilibrium. So these moments, I'm interpreting these as spinning in the same direction for these two equilateral triangles. We've got the 147 triangle, we've got the 258. Just briefly to drop that in, the 147 is very much the more masculine in terms of the yin yang. It's the yang element, the masculine element, whereas the 258 is more of the yin element. 417 is very much more dealing with the physical body. The 258 is much more dealing with the emotional body. The 369 is much more the sort of spiritual, energetic body. Okay, so we're spinning, and then what happens when we're not tuned up, let's say, is that the 258 triangle completely covers the 369 equilateral triangle. So basically, when that's covered up, the connection is at best fuzzy or unclear, or very much the sun is behind the clouds. And just to make that point, when any of these numbers 2, 5 or 8 connect with the 9, then the number that they give back is the same. It's 2, 5 and 8. 2 plus 9 is 11. 1 plus 1 equals 2. 9 plus 5 is 14. 1 plus 4 equals 5. And 8 plus 9 equals 17. 1 plus 7 equals 8. When you get the 3 and the 5 together, you get 8. When you get the 3 and the 8 together, you get 11, which is 2. And when you get the 3 and the 2 together, you get 5. So basically it's the same numbers, but just in a different ordering. And the same is true with the 6. We'll just take one, the 6 and the 5 give back a 2. This is particular here, we're on the purple numbers when we say the 6 and the 5. So you get the 2 here, and then the 3 and the 2, if we stay with the purple. So the 5 comes here. So these 2 and the 5 switch sides, and the 8 would stay the same because the 9 and the 8 equal 9. As we continue to spin in the same direction, there is a moment here where the 369 triangle comes back into vision, but it's a much more contracted version of our 9-pointed star. When the 9-pointed star is at its most joli, beautiful, it's kind of like this. But there, what we had there was this much more contracted 9-pointed star, which represents the fact that, in fact, if the clouds never passed and we didn't get to see this 3-6-9 triangle, we could probably go by the theory that we'd all be going absolutely crazy. Okay, we need to have that constant connection with the world around us and the world that is, and that's why, you know, this triangle is never completely obscured. So, but as we continue to turn, we're turning in that direction, and then all of a sudden, again, the 3-6-9 triangle is blotted out. We are lost in ego mind streams of thought, mental concepts, and thinking about the past, thinking about the future, thinking about abstract concepts. So, and again, we've got the 1-4-7 triangle blotting out the 3-6-9. But if we do the maths the same, again, let's just take the purple numbers here. The 3 and the 1 become the 4 there. The 6 and the 4 here become 10. So that's the 1. So the 1 and the 4 switch over, and the 9 and the 7 equals 16. 1 plus 6 equals 7. So the 7 stays there. But again, it reforms the same 1-4-7. The alchemy of the 1-4-7 triangle and the 3-6-9 triangle is a 1-4-7 triangle, if you like. So carrying on at the same spin, all of a sudden we do hit into a beautiful 9-pointed star again. It's also really important to notice in this 9-pointed star we have the 12 between the two here, the 15 between the 9 and 3 here, and the 18 is between the 9 and 6 here. So this is a moment of coming back to one's senses, more awareness, and that means there's a possibility to change our energy, to change our rhythm. And if at that point we're able to stay with consciousness, talking about it more simply, that's just like coming back to awareness, being more present, being more conscious of the moment. So now that we've made that connection there, then the triangles are able to start to spin in the right way. As these start to cross each other, we're about to form the 6-pointed star here, and we're going to get 6s. We can see here, if we add up the black, green or purple numbers, we're going to get a 6. Here we're going to get a 9, and here we're going to get a 3. So we're just going to do that, and as we're working with through practice, when we come back into a moment of presence, we breathe in, come a little bit in presence, but the next moment it's to take that energy back down through the chakras. We go, the energy coming up is coming up to the third eye, but then it needs to move back through the crown and through the bindu and come back down through the system. This is the way of being able to allow us to be more present into the here and now. So, and that's the symbol of the 6-pointed star, is the energy's gone up. We don't actually detract from the energy that's risen, but at the same time, energy must come down through the 6-pointed star. So, and this is a coming together of our physical and emotional bodies. So the first one is just realization. Okay, presence. But then we need to retune in and be aware of the body and be aware of the emotions in the moment. And now the energy, that's part of what draws the energy back down as well. So in this case, we're good, and we're going to keep spinning in the right direction. And in this point, we reform again a nice 9-pointed star. However, looking now, we don't find the 12, 18 and 15 between the points on this one, because this is a more internal process at this stage. In order to really arrive into a more awakened state of being, there needs to be a certain amount of processing that happens internally. But in this case, of course, we're attaining that at the moment, so we continue to spin in the same direction. And now at this point, what we see here, we're about to form the triangle, and here we've got 3's to match up with the 9. 3 plus 9 will equal 12. Even the 7 and 5, which is a 12, plus a 9 is a 21, so 1 plus 2, it's a 3 here, whatever. Here at the 3, we get all the 9's, so it's the same. It's going to be a 3 reduced number. And here also, with the 6's, we're getting all the 6's here. So 6 plus 6 equals 12, or 15 if you go 7 and 8, 15 plus 6. So it's either 12 or 21 in each area. So this is a triangle of 3's. 3, 3, 3. So, and this is really the first gate. And that you need to look at in the book, the gates. And again, this is triangular. Now everything's coming together internally. Internal awareness of our bodies, internal awareness of our emotions, internal awareness of the energetic side of our being. So this is inner balance, inner peace, inner harmony, if you like, to some degree. And because we're on a good vibe, we're sustaining it, and we're going to keep going. And then we get again to a beautiful 9-pointed star, and from that space of inner balance, then the attention goes back out to the external phenomenal world, the sense doors. We've gone from inner balance to expanding the awareness to incorporate the sense door realm, and now we're in a balanced 9-pointed star, which once again has the 15, 12 and 18 running around. However, we still also have to be aware that at this point we've got a 9 at the top. If we look across the layers of the star, here we have 3's on this line. Here also 3's, and at the bottom 3's. Obviously 6 and 3 is 9, top is 9. So it's still 3, 3, 3. So it's a position of more centered, balanced awareness, but it's not a stable, balanced awareness. And when we enter into this space, the story, when we are working with our consciousness through spiritual work and what have you, is we do come into spaces and moments where we find ourselves really present, feeling quite connected, inner, outer aspect. But what we're also dealing is, in that space, we're actually dealing with more universal energy, if you like. The I, me body is kind of softened, and that leaves us more exposed to the resonance, the energies of the world around us. So in that space, at some point, what happens is we blimp out. Okay, we can only live in that space for a certain amount of time until we become habituated to that space of being. I like to equate that to going up in altitude, for example. If you go up in altitude too fast, you get sick. You go up to a certain amount of altitude, then really the ideal is to come back down a little bit and then rest, and then go up a little bit higher, or then you become stable at the next, and so on. Or going down fathoms in the oceans, it's like, you need to adapt to these sort of new extreme energetic intensities. And it's no different to when we're actually practicing self-consciousness, presence, being more wakeful in our day-to-day lives. It's the same, actually. We start to deal with higher frequency energies, and if we're not accustomed to that, if we're not trained to that, then after a certain point, we blimp out. So right now, we're blimping out. Now, once again, the 369 triangle gets covered. We're going to move through that once again. But if we're good yogis, what'll happen is and what's really happening here, we're just caught up in a distraction. We've reached for the chocolate box. We're thinking about what happened last week, what we need to do later. The mind's jumped in. We're back on the train of ego mind at this point. But as good yogis, we see it and we catch it really quick. Now, if you catch it really quick, then actually the expansion of consciousness can continue. And in the catching of the train of thought, that's a real strong moment of reconnection. In that moment of reconnection, this is a really a strong reconnection here, and we've got the 18, the 15 and the 12 running around, because if it's the process of moving away and into ego streams is caught quick enough, we almost don't lose any altitude. If we go back into the example I was just using, we just dip down a teeny bit and then okay, we're back and we're connected. And now the triangles can continue to spin in the balanced and correct way. Now this time, as we come into balance, well, it's similar. We've got a 6 at the bottom here, we've got 9s at the side here, we've got 3s here. So that's our 6-pointed star. So once again, when we came into that presence moment, okay, picking it back up, energy rises, and then we need to let the energy go down. So we need to recheck in, like what's really going on inside. Recheck in with our emotions, recheck in with our mind and our bodies. And this process we continue to survey. This is a 9-pointed star because we're present, but right now we're a little bit more internal because we're kind of regulating, why we blimped out. We're kind of trying to just stay with those energies at this time because it's fragile, and the ego knows that there's an opportunity here. However, as good yogis, we keep spinning in the right direction. And then here, we're going to form another triangle. And in this case, it's going to be a triangle of 6s because the 3s are here, the 1 and the 2, the 4 and the 8, the 7 and the 5, and the 3 and the 3 together gives us a 6. These are 6s, and the 9 and the 6s together give back 6s as root numbers, and these are 9s, and again 9 and 6 give back root numbers of 6. So here the triangles have all merged together, so that means that our inner resonance, our inner frequencies are all vibed, tuned together, if you like, and this is the inner balance at 666. So from the inner balance, we're going to come back out, because once we become aware of the inner balance, the quality of inner balance, then we shift our attention to the sense doors, and that's when we come into a much deeper, stabler sense of presence, awareness, wakefulness. So if I'm right, yes, we've got the 18, the 15 and the 12 now showing that connection. And although we are good yogis, we're now experiencing an even higher altitude, stronger energetic frequencies, because we've run through 2 stages without totally flipping back and dropping down in altitude, which is what can happen a lot of the time when we're working with the practice. So at this stage, that level of energetic intensity is going to create another blimp. We're going to blimp out again. So we're turning, and the 369 triangle gets covered. once again. But as good yogis, okay, you've caught yourself thinking about whatever it is you're thinking about. Sometimes it's something that, when we are practicing, particularly in meditative times, sometimes we catch the brain thinking of something absolutely absurd, which we don't even anymore relate with as who we are ourselves. And that's a really good moment when we can come really into presence. Another thing to point out in this one is that now we've got 9s across the layers instead of 3s and 6s. 9, 9, 9, 9, 9. All the layers of the star are 9s. So because we are good yogis, we're staying with the plan, and we're going to form the 6-pointed star, which is now going to be 9s at the bottom, but it's going to be 3s at this side and 6s on this side. There's the and then we break out of the 6-pointed star. We've just been working with, we're working fairly internally at this point. And this is the 9-pointed star, which isn't particularly connected to the sense door world, but it's still inner conscious awareness. And one more time, we're going to form the triangle. Now this time, as we're forming the triangle, we've got 9s at the top here. 9 and 9 is 18. We've got 6s here, 6 and 3 here, giving 9s there. And this is 3s here with the 6, which gives us 9 at the bottom here. So this is the triangle of 9s. So now we hit a triangle of 9s. And from this space of inner clarity, we reconnect to the sense door world. And there we are, back to the very beginning, having done 3 full cycles. So we went through 3 full cycles where we were working with triangle of 3s, 3s across the layers, then the 6s, and then the 9s. So just to say here, 3 full cycles are actually 3 full cycles of 360 degrees, which take us to 1080 degrees. And in the book, the first knot is 999. The first gate is 972. That's the first key, sorry. So you've got your 972 at the top. We've just come out of the triangles of 999, and after 3 full cycles, having circled through that pattern, that rhythm 3 times, we're at the 1080 vision. People have heard of that, or is it 1080? Is that HD? I think HD quality, and so that's the first stage of rebirth, where the head comes out of the womb of Mother Nature, and that is that first moving through the first gate, where one has a really strong sense of presence, connection, wakefulness. So I've just put up the magic grid one more time again, because I also want to show you that we start here. This is very limited conscious awareness, but we expand out in this way, and we move along this line of expansive awareness. And as we move along this line, we're expanding our awareness to encompass the full box of numbers here. So I just want to show that when we move in this direction, we hit this square here, which is the first time we hit a 9 9 is the universal consciousness. So this is where we're being exposed to more. If we have a certain amount of presence, we arrive here. This is the point where 3 times 3 equals 9. So this is your 3 times 3 table. So this is where we're working through all the 3's as we're turning through the gate. If we manage to stay with the process, we keep expanding. You can say we started with 1 square here, then we've gone to 4 squares, then we've gone to 9 squares, then we've gone to 16 squares. And as we keep expanding through the squares, all of a sudden we hit another 9 here. So this is another gateway, another block. And quite often, once we hit this gate, coming presence for a moment, then we drop back inside this square here, generally. But if we can work with that, once we're working with consciousness, and that could be any process of just trying to be present, to listen to someone, to perform a task with skill or whatever. Generally, we're passing through this 9 at this stage, and we're moving here, and we'll arrive eventually at this 9, where if we're to travel into this area of more expansive consciousness, we need to learn to habituate ourselves to this higher frequency of presence, of energy, this higher altitude. And this is where the 6 times table is. This is the 6 times table going that way, this is the 6 times table in that way. So this would be 6 times 6, which is 36, which gives us a 9 root number. That's that 9 there, 36. And that's where we've got all the 6's with the magic start, with the star map, if you like. If we're able to hold and sustain our consciousness as we travel through here, then we're going to arrive at this box here. Here, this box already is surrounded by 999, which is the first gate, first major gate. But it's also the 9 times table in this direction, in this direction. This is 9 times 9, which is 81. 8 and 1 equals 9. And then to move beyond this point here, this is the stage, first rebirthing stage. And then we move into a whole new dimension of what it is to be present, to be centered, wakeful within ourselves. And that is an experience which is outside of our habitual box of experience, which is the 1 to 9 times table, or more accurately, the 1 to 8 times table. This is also a much more difficult lock to go through than these guys, because these are bands of energy, which again is something which is more clear through the book, but I also hope to do talks that will open up this a little bit deeper as well. So that's the star map as more of a working model of consciousness. Thanks for listening.